بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. To be honest, and as we say, to keep things real or keep it 100 or keep it 100, coming from the United States, the United Kingdom is famous. Famous and infamous. Both. Fame and infamy. England, London is well known in the United States, rather in the world. But I'm talking about my country, my upbringing. And when you're young, there's so many different things you see and hear about the United Kingdom. Alright? And you oftentimes fantasize about it, whether it's Buckingham Palace, the Queen of England, the Union Jack, Sherlock Holmes, James Bond, whatever is famous and iconic, and whatever is related to the United Kingdom. London fog. It's a popular jacket when I was growing up, a trench coat, London fog. Iconic. Directly connected to the London Bridge. Okay, Reebok. Reebok sneakers were very popular in the 80s and in the 90s, and obviously, see the color of the English flag or the Union Jack, etc. So when you're growing up, you hear about the United Kingdom, you see things, you fantasize about things, and you may even dream about things. But when I was younger, it was never ever a dream or a thought that I would come to the United Kingdom to lecture and to speak about Islam and Hadith. And then we would go from city to city, town to town, Masjid to Masjid, center to center, and you will meet. I benefit from your channel. Jazakallah khair. So alhamdulillah, this was something I never thought was going to happen in my life. However, when Allah Azza wa Jalla wants to do something, we know that no one or nothing can stop Him. And I'm grateful for that, for all of the love, all of the respect, all of the support that all of the brothers and the sisters from the United Kingdom have shown us. We're very grateful for that. Walillahi alhamd. In the United States, when we have our live stream, in the Masjid, in Birmingham, London, Leicester, wherever we go, alhamdulillah, we appreciate all of that. And may Allah Azza wa Jalla reward you. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow you to learn beneficial knowledge, whether it's from us or from other than us, and allow you to implement that beneficial knowledge, guide each and every one of you to the straight path, and give you the success for all good in this life and in the hereafter. Allahumma ameen. About a year ago, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago at most, there was a brother who came to me at our masjid in Queens. And obviously New York City, just like London, but specifically New York City and Queens, is very diverse, very multicultural. You have people there that are of different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different immigrants from different countries, all right? So you have people that are black, people that are white, people that are yellow, and people that are red. You have people from India, Bangladesh, Pakistan. You have black Americans, you have Caribbean Americans, Jamaican, Trinidadian, Guyanese. You have people that come from Jewish backgrounds, Italians, Irish, Hispanics, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rican, Colombian, from El Salvador, all over, let alone the Middle East, Egypt, okay, well, which is not, I don't consider it to be the Middle East. Egypt is part of Africa. Al-Muhim, North Africa, Morocco, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, let alone the Far East. You have people there from Turkey, people there from China, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Russia, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, all over, you name it, you'll find in New York City. So, if New York City is diverse and very, very, is interwoven with regards to different races and cultures and religions, then of course that masjid in which you are in New York City is going to be affected by that. It's going to be affected by that. And the masjid where I, myself, and I'm an imam, there are different races and different ethnicities, and also different Islamic backgrounds. You have people that are pious and righteous, striving, people that are just, barely getting by. You have taxi cab drivers, limousine drivers, wahakada. So literally, in New York City, in Queens, and specifically in our masjid, which is in a very strategically important location on the way to what? John F. Kennedy Airport. It's a very strategic location. It's not the biggest masjid, it's not the fanciest masjid, but it's definitely a very important location. So you have all types of people that come into this masjid, all walks of life. So one day, I was in the masjid, and a brother approached me. And it looked like he was from Bangladesh. So he started talking to me, Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh, kif halik, blah, 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 blah. Okay, wa alaikum assalam. He says, I have a problem, and I need you to help me. He says, sure. I'm going through a divorce at the time. Me and my wife, and we have problems. We have a daughter, so on and so forth. And the Shahada is Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. That's it. There is no Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And Islam is nothing but the Quran. There is no such thing as Hadith and Sunnah. There is no such thing as the messenger or the prophet of Allah. There's only submission to God and to God only. This is what he told me. I said, really? He said, yes. He says, and you're the only speaker of all of the different masjids that I've been to that I feel has the ability to get through to her. Through your knowledge, your eloquence, your English, your young, whatever. Maybe you can talk some sense to her. Can you please help me out? So I asked him some more questions, and it went on forth, so on and so on and so forth. So he says that when she prays to a different direction. She doesn't wear the hijab. She only reads a specific version of the Quran. Rashid, Khalifa, Fulan, they follow this group, etc., etc. So I sat down, I said, well, let's see what can be done, inshallah. So one day he took me over his house. He introduced me to his daughter, and he introduced me to his wife, or ex-wife, or she was, yani, bayna manzila bayna manzilatayn, yani. She was, they weren't divorced, but they weren't absolutely separated, all right? So we started talking and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, it's a very, very, very long discussion that we had, and they had three major problems going on. Problem number one was the problem between husband and wife. Nothing to do with Islam, Iman, Kufr. Them as men and women. Problem number two, of course, is their daughter, and the custody battle that must ensue. Problem number three was the issue of giving dawah to her to come back to Islam, or what he called the true Islam, etc. So I sat with them and I talked with them, and I tried my best to reason into etc. What happened? Did she come back? That's not important right now. What's important is I left the house. A couple weeks went by. He invited me to come back over again to talk about all three things once more. How do we get divorced? What do I owe her? What money is due, etc. What are we going to do with our daughter? Who does our daughter follow? Does she pray facing this qibla or that qibla? Does she cover her head when she prays or not? Which parent is she going to follow in her religion? I'll ask them, at least, can you get her to maybe come back to Islam, etc. Shaykh, you're an imam. There's so much more that you can do. Let's go. So I said, just relax, Akhi. Let's see what can we do. He says, what can you possibly do? He says, we went to the courts, we went to the lawyers, and the courts and the lawyers and the people that asked us, what's the problem? Why are you guys fighting? And he said, the brother from Bangladesh, he said that the lawyer happened to be a Jew. And in the United States, many lawyers are Jews. It's very well known. Okay, sometimes the best lawyers are Jewish lawyers. I don't know how things are in the United Kingdom, but that's well known in America. Some of the best lawyers are those who are Jewish. So he said to the lawyer, he says, what are you? What's your religion? He says, I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish, as you already know. He says, so can you be a Jew, or what would Judaism be, or what would you say about a person who says that he's a Jew without Moses? I'm a Jew, I believe in this book and that book, but there's no such thing as Moses. I don't have to believe in Moses. Moses never came. Moses was a big fat lie. What would you say? Obviously, the lawyer said, of course not. That's impossible. What do you mean? How can someone be a Jew and neglect Moses? That is the kernel, the core of the religion. It's Moses, Musa. He says, then that's my wife. He says, that's my wife. She's saying that she's a Muslim without Muhammad. That's what he said to her. This was his rationale. That's what she's trying to say, is that you can be a Muslim and submit to Allah without believing, accepting, submitting to, loving, and respecting the Prophet of Islam. Regardless of Quran and Hadith or Al-Muhim, Muhammad is not a part of the Quran. He asked the Jewish man, he said, is that possible? And of course the Jewish lawyer, he said, what? No, that'll be a huge act of blasphemy and a great waste of time for someone to claim to be a Jew and say that there's no what? there's no Moses. So what's the moral of the story? What's the point that I'm trying to get to? Anyone understand where I'm going or how I'm trying to get there? Anyone understand the moral of the story yet? Anybody? منكر السنة ما له ما يعني ايش منكر السنة ما له تعلق بموضوعنا هذا؟ ايش دخل هذا في ذا؟
يريدون أن يأخذوا من شرائع الإسلام.
بس ما هو وجه التعلق بين هذا وبين الموضوع موضوع المحاضرة the prophetic Ramadan أقصد ماذا that you cannot have a Ramadan that's not prophetic هذا هو أحسنت there is no such thing as a what prophetic Ramadan that doesn't exist if your Ramadan is not prophetic then it's not a what it's not a Ramadan as the Jewish lawyer said himself that how can you claim to follow this religion and the key central figure you're doing what? Removing. That's just what? A huge big fat waste of what? Time. Everyone understand the point? So that's why I'm mentioning this story to you. Is that there is no such thing as a prophetic Ramadan. It's Ramadan or nothing. And the same applies to Islam. There is no just Quran. It's Islam. It's La ilaha illallah and Muhammad Rasulullah. And if that's not the case, you have no Islam. He who rejects the Prophet ﷺ and rejects his hadith and says that Islam is only submission to God has not submitted to God. It reminded me of a story or brief incident that I read about when I was going to school in Saudi Arabia. And it was in the early days of Islam when one of the companions who was Imran ibn Hussein radiallahu sat and he was teaching them what he learned from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu. And they told him of a man who says that there's no such thing as hadith, the Quran is enough, you don't need the hadith, we don't have the hadith, etc. Just the Quran. So Imran radiallahu anhu, he says, come close. He says, come here. And he asked them a few questions. He didn't come down on him, but he asked them some questions. He says, he asked them the basic questions, how do you make salah? What salah do you make? Which direction do you face? How many rakat is Maghrib? Do you make tawaf? أوجدت طواف سبعة في كتاب الله أوجدت الزكاة كذا في كتاب الله أوجدت الصلاة كذا في كتاب الله. He asked him, he says أرأيت إن وكلت أنت وأصحابك إلى القرآن أوجدت فيه صلاة كذا أوجدت الطواف فيه سبع أشواط أوجدت. He says أرأيت إن وكلت أنت وأصحابك. He says if you and your friends, if you and your band, your group, your gang, if you were in charge of the Quran, what would Islam be? How many prayers would you find? How many times would you make tawaf around the Kaaba? Which direction would you face? And he asked them all these hard-line questions. And obviously the man was dumbfounded. There was no answer that he could give. And Imran ibn Hussein radiallahu ta'ala, he said at the end of all of that, he said, أَيُّ قَوْمٍ خُذُوا عَنَّا وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا لَا تُضِلَّنَّ. He says, oh you people, take from us, meaning the Sahaba, and if you don't, you will surely be astray. If you don't learn from where we have learned, you will go astray. And there are many statements, and many of these mawaqif, these positions that the Salaf and the Sahaba took against those who wanted something that was new and something that was separate than the actual way of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So with all that being said, brothers and sisters, the prophetic Ramadan is nothing more than Ramadan based off of the Quran. And the Ramadan that is prescribed in the Quran is what the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prescribed in his authentic Sunnah. As Aisha radiallahu anha was asked, how did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam behave? How was his character? How did he conduct himself? She said, and it shows you the beauty of the fiqh of Aisha radiallahu anha, how intelligent she was and how much of a great student she was of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And she had short, comprehensive, succinct words. It wasn't a long sentence wasn't needed. A lecture wasn't needed. She said, "Kana khuluquhu al-Quran." His character was the Quran. That's it. Anything that you find in the Quran, it was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam walking and talking. The Quran talks about being brave. The Quran talks about having courage. The Quran talks about being truthful. The Quran talks about being just. The Quran talks about being fair. The Quran talks about treating people how they should be treated. The Quran talks about the orphan and the neighbor. The Quran talks about all of these things. All of that was in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she didn't need a long, extensive answer. Kana khuluquhu al-Quran. His character was the Quran. So the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, that's the only way that we can have a Ramadan. There's no Quranic Ramadan. There's no Islamic Ramadan. There's no spiritual Ramadan. There's no cultural Ramadan. The only Ramadan that you could possibly have is prophetic. And if it's not prophetic, then it is if what? Haba'an manthura. كَرَمَادٍ اشْتَدَّتْ بِهِ الرِّيحِ. Allah speaks about this many verses in the Quran, and He gives examples of deeds which are of no use. 3 of them. Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentions in Surah Ibrahim. Allah mentions in Surah At-Tawbah. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentions in Surah An-Nur. Examples and parables or similitudes of deeds of people who have not entered the home through the front gate. People who say that they love Allah, we are the children of Allah, wa ahibba'uhu, and His loved ones. Allah talks about haba'an manthuran, dust floating in the air. Allah talks about karamadin ishtaddat bihi rih, ashes thrown through a violent wind on a very stormy day. And Allah talks about kasarabin biqi'ah, a mirage in the wastelands, i.e. nothing tangible. So dust that floats in the air, when you see the sunlight coming through your window, what value is that? If you took a handful of ash, and it was very, very, very windy, like it is here in the UK, and it was even windier last night, we were in Manchester or Leicester, it just what? Immediately blows away. And obviously anyone who's traveled to Arabia or North Africa or parts in different regions in which there's desert in Arizona or China, wherever you go, and you're walking and you're thirsty and it's extremely hot, you understand the concept of a mirage, something that you think is water, and you keep walking and walking and walking and closer, and it's nothing there. Have you ever seen a mirage in real life, anyone? Have you ever seen a mirage in real life? Maybe on TV, maybe you read about it in a book or in a cartoon. I remember the first time that I saw one. We were driving from Mecca to Medina, leaving Mecca, passing through Jeddah, and it's so hot. It was so hot outside, so much sun. As you're driving, you see in front of you, looks like water on the road, on the hot asphalt. And the more you drive, the closer it looks. And you drive for 4 hours, and obviously you don't find any what? You don't find any water. So Allah Azza wa Jalla, He gives us these 3 examples about the deeds of people who lack Iman. The deeds, then it is of no use and of no value. So this is what we must understand with regards to Ramadan. There's no Ramadan if it's not the what? There's no such thing as that. It doesn't exist. It's either Ramadan or what? La shay. Everyone understand that? And if it's not done according to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu, then it is a month from among the other what? The other months. As it states in other narrations, some of the companions will say, don't allow your fasting just to be hunger and thirst. Don't allow Ramadan to just be a means of you losing weight, and that's it. طيب, khairan inshallah. So with that being said, for argument's sake, how do we have a prophetic Ramadan? Saying that there is a such thing as Ramadan Nabawi. What do we do to have a correct Ramadan or proper Ramadan? Alhamdulillah, I'll say over the last 2 years, 2 or 3 years maybe, through my studies and my readings, and me traveling and teaching and discussing and so on and so forth, I've come up with what I feel are 2 of the most important principles with regards to Islam in general, the Sunnah and Dawah, and what is the true way of the pious predecessors. And these 2 principles aren't Tasfiyah and Tarbiyah, which are very important principles. And we've done lectures on this, Walillah alhamd, explaining the lost and forgotten legacy of Tasfiyah and Tarbiyah. Tasfiyah coming before Tarbiyah. But these 2 principles, I believe that I've come up with in myself. And those principles are spirituality and technicality. Technicality and spirituality. And if you don't have this 1-2 punch, this salt and pepper, then you're definitely at best deficient. So when we talk about Ramadan, your Ramadan has to be spiritual. Your Ramadan has to be based off of spirituality. That's the fuel that drives your Ramadan. That's the gasoline, the petrol, the engine. But the steering wheel, the GPS, the high beams, the focus of the driver, the thing that allows the petrol to push the automobile and steer it and keep it from danger is technicality. You have to be spiritual and technical, meaning Ramadan has to be something in your heart. Ramadan has to be an issue in which you feel your heart softening. You feel happy, you feel inspired, you feel invigorated, you feel closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. You have a good intention, a good heart. But that's not enough if you don't actually have the technicality, and that is the actual fiqh of Ramadan. What to do specifically. What to avoid specifically. What can I do when I'm fasting? What breaks my fast? How many rak'ahs for Taraweeh? Why am I making Taraweeh except for what? Spirituality, right? I can be asleep at night. I have to get up early in the morning after work. I have to eat suhoor. But I pray at nighttime because of what? Spirituality. But now, how do I make Taraweeh? Is it 40 rak'at? 20 rak'at? 11 rak'at? 13? What is the ruling of making dua qunut? Do I raise my hands? Can I say it in English? What is to be said in the dua of qunut? Do we do it before ruku'? After the ruku'? That is the what? The technicality. Everyone understand this? That's the actual ilm, the information. So the true dawah has to be based off of these two principles. And you look at many dawahs today, many websites, many dawah organizations, I would say 9 out of 10 of them are extremists and zealots in one of the two principles, at the expense of the other. We don't need to mention names of groups, names of speakers. You find them only focusing on spirituality. That's it. The heart, the soul, the zuhd, the dunya, the dhikr, that's it. Sadaqah, salah, that's it. It's the only thing they talk about. And that's the only thing they push, and it's the only thing that they propagate. And you find other groups, the only thing they want to discuss is technicalities. This principle, this view, this hadith, this specific thing, this sheikh, this one, that one. And it's nothing but things. And you find the followers having hard hearts. You find the followers of this group or this dawah organization having no spiritual attachment whatsoever. And you find them living like shells. The softness, the kindness, the beauty of Islam, it doesn't exist. And just have a bunch of information in their heads. And very seldom, or seldomly we find someone who has a perfect merging of both principles. There is a such thing as zuhd, yeah. There is a such thing as dhikr of Allah, yeah. There is a such thing as crying over your sins, yes. There is a such thing as divorcing the dunya and taking it out of the hearts of the people, yes, there is. But it has to be based off of the authentic hadiths. It has to be based off of the proper understanding. It cannot be based off of culture and feelings and things like this. So technicality and spirituality, that is your guide for a prophetic Ramadan. You have to be spiritual. You have to be closer to Allah. You have to make repentance. You have to free yourself from stinginess and from being a miser in this month. You have to lower your gaze in this month. Stop backbiting in this month. Stop talking about people in this month. You have to get your spirit together, but you also have to see etiquette of suhoor. When is suhoor? Is it before fajr or after fajr? Iftar, when the mu'adhin makes the adhan, when he finishes the adhan. What do you eat when you have iftar? Is that hadith authentic? Eating, breaking your iftar with dates, fresh dates, and if not, then dry dates, and if not, then water. فَإِنَّهُ طَهُورٌ. Is that authentic? If it is authentic, what does that mean? ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وتم الأجر إن شاء الله. Is that authentic hadith? What's the meaning of that? That the reward is تم الأجر. Allah has accepted my fast, inshallah. What does that mean? So the students of knowledge, the imams and the scholars, they're the top tier. They are the leaders. They have to set, and our technical knowledge of, if it's not for the goal of what? Spiritual development. And spiritual development that's not based off of ilm nafi' is also what? It's of no use. And what's the delay from this, you may ask me? And inshallah, that's going to be the last thing I'm going to mention in this lecture today, this short, quick talk that I have with you. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He tells us, هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. Allah says, it is Allah, huwa alladhi. Allah is praising himself. Allah is lauding himself. He's telling the people of what he has done for them. Allah is bringing up his favor on them. It is Allah who has sent among the ummiyin, the people that were disorganized, the people who were backwards, the people who are in most cases extremely illiterate, the people that weren't living how they were supposed to be living. He sent from among them a messenger. And what was the job of that messenger? Yatlu alayhim ayatihi. He recited to them his ayat, meaning he delivered the Quran. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. And he cleaned or cleansed them. He washed them. He defiled them. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمْ. And he taught them the book and the wisdom. Even though they were clearly astray before that. And Allah says, وَآخَرِينَ. And others who have not yet met him and encountered him. Meaning people in the time of the Prophet or Muslims to come later on. And Allah Azza wa Jalla is Al-Aziz Al-Hakim. That is the bounty of Allah, to whom He gives, to whom He wills. And Allah Azza wa Jalla is the possessor of the ever-expansive bounty. So these verses, it shows us that the duty of the Messenger of Allah is divided into three sections. Number one is to deliver the wording of the Quran, to give them the actual Quran itself, and also to make tazkiyah, a word that many people are sensitive about. And if you say the word tazkiyah, so you're a Sufi. If you say the word tazkiyah to nafs, you're this and you're that. And it's mentioned in the Quran. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. To make tazkiyah of them, to wash away from them the filth and the sediments of jahiliyyah and of shirk and prejudice and racism and all of the things that they suffered from. يُزَكِّيهِمْ, and most importantly, وَيُعَلِّمُهُمْ. And he was to teach them, meaning physically. To teach them the book and the wisdom, the book and the Sunnah. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he was of the opinion, and he was of the view, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught the companions the entire Quran through tafsir. That every verse in the Quran he gave them a tafsir of every single ayah. Now when you read Ibn Kathir, or Tabari, or Qurtubi, or Alusi, or Ibn Ashur, or Fulan, you say, where's that at? Every verse doesn't have a hadith. And many verses in which there is a hadith for, the hadith is da'if, it's weak, it's fabricated. How did the Prophet teach every part of the Quran to the Sahaba? How is this possible? Shaykh al-Islam, he says, it's included in this verse. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابِ. And then he taught them the book, i.e. physically. He taught them the tafsir through his actions. He gave them both what? Spirituality. And he also gave them what? Technicality. He taught them what to believe in. He taught them how to believe. He taught them what to reject. He taught them these things. And he also taught them the specific rulings. Do not eat like this. Do not eat with this hand. Do not drink standing up. He taught them technical things. And I think that the world would be a much better place if Muslims themselves understood these principles, let alone non-Muslims understood that Islam is not a book of just spirituality. That's why you find verses in the Quran that talk about warfare. Because warfare is a part of life. As long as there have been human beings, there has been what? Warfare. It's going to be conflict. There's going to be turmoil. So we were in the park today. The guy's holding the translation of the Quran. The Quran is full of murder. Muhammad was a murderer. Muhammad was a warlord. Where does the murder stop in his book? Maybe. But I'm living in the United Kingdom. You're a British citizen. How many wars has England fought in? How many? How many countries? How many continents? Because that's a part of what? That's a part of life. It's a part of life, whether the war is right or wrong. Whether it's done correctly or incorrectly, but turmoil and conflict, a war. They fought. Jealous and he was angry, and they killed him. And there's been bloodshed, what? To this day. So the concept is that the Quran is going to talk about technical things. It's going to speak on using the restroom. It's going to speak on marriage. It's going to speak on divorce. It's going to talk about everything along with the spiritual aspects. And many people, they only want the spirituality of the Quran. Submission, peace, safety, no racism, no prejudice. But they don't want to deal with the technicalities. And it's one of the reasons why they reject the hadiths. That's why they reject the hadiths, because the hadiths give too much technicality. It gives you a detailed description of how to live from sunset or sunrise to sunset. And they don't want that. They want the vague spirituality of it. And the values that no one in their right mind would reject from the Quran. Peace, salam. Who will reject that peace? The brotherhood among all nations. Your qabaid, your shu'ub, races and nations. Who won't accept that? That's the modern agenda today. Equality. They want these things. But now what are the details of equality? What are the details of husband and wife? What are the details of this and of that? So that is the true and proper balance with regards to Islam and understanding and in practice. Building that out, I want to save some time for the questions. Wherever we go, there are always a lot of questions and we never have enough time to answer them. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wa sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabina wa imamina Muhammad.